starting off, we got a David Fincher film. Gone Girl, it had me. I was invested when it started. When the movie was beginning, I was really looking forward to seeing kind of how intense that it would get, because director David Fincher is pretty good with kind of making such simple ideas have such a thrilling edge to them. Unfortunately, a lot of his projects I was never able to find amazing. If you've heard me talk about movies I find overrated, I talked about Fight Club just not being as exciting as it looked in terms of the plot and kind of what it was for. So as great as David Fincher is as a director, I just don't think I've seen any of his movies that I found to be super amazing. Like the best of his movies, I just found to be great. Okay, that's really the best I can say about his best film for me. But yeah, this one, it was okay. I mean, I was definitely looking forward to how the movie would go forward. So at least it kept me on. Like, at least I could follow some of it. But I just honestly couldn't follow enough of it for me to see this as something amazing. So yeah, I also find Ben Affleck to be one of the best actors, so his performance kind of took me away at some bits. It's not the worst. Actually, I think if anything, this is one of Affleck's better performances compared to the stuff I don't like from him. Still, though, the movie itself, as beloved as people find it, I just think it's decent, okay? It's decent, it does fine at what it does, it didn't grab me as much, so yeah, that's just what I think. So this is an interesting film. You ever wondered what it was like to work at a theme park? No? Well, this movie is that. This film kind of focuses on sort of the life of employees at an amusement park. Here we follow a young Jesse Eisenberg who gets a job at a theme park and decides to kind of handle the job well. It's one of those kind of comedies where you kind of have to look at how douchey the customers are and get the feel they gotta feel bad for the people working there. And that's one of those kind of films. It got some good little actors here. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg works good in this movie. They also got Ryan Reynolds in a young role where, again, he just always looks the same. Or there's Bill Hader with a mustache. Or how about Bella Swan, or more so Kristen Stewart's in this movie. Yeah, this movie does well. I think what made the movie fine enough for me is the fact that, while its humor isn't 100%, like it definitely isn't as funny as things, other these kind of movies like Clerks, it is actually still there. Like they could have very easily have made this romance film kind of lack in terms of its comedic ideas, but I'm impressed with some rom-coms and how they're able to actually achieve better with comedy. Because I feel like a lot of rom-coms I've seen kind of lose the focus of being funny and seem to care more just about how they tell the romance. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've just seen that a lot in most rom-coms. Thankfully, this one doesn't shy too much away from when it should be funny. I mean, hey, this is the guy who did Superbad, so you know you should be getting something good. So, is Adventureland an amazing movie? It's not definitely nothing like Superbad or any of the other hilarious comedies out there, but it works pretty well. I enjoy kind of what this movie had. It was fun for the most part, and yeah, you can enjoy a good amount of it. Okay, so here we have a another work-related comedy. This one revolving around three guys who hate their bosses and want to kill them. Yeah, that's literally what the movie is. It's just three guys who have, well, horrible bosses. So their best stunt is to find a way to kill them. So yeah, that's what the movie is. And I enjoy it for that. I like the kind of character we get, like the bonding between Bateman, Day, and Sudeikis is pretty fun. And I do like kind of how the movie portrays everything. Because, like, yeah, they do portray these bosses that they have as stuck-ups, Like, there's Kevin Spacey, it's hard to say his name, as a boss who does not care about how other employees feel. There's Jennifer Aniston, who's, I find weird to play a douche, but in this movie she's kind of a seducer, per se. And then there's forgettable Colin Farrell appearing. Yeah, I found Colin Farrell's character to sadly be lackluster in this movie. I feel they could have used him a little more, but still. The comedy comes from, just the chemistry that these three have, and the fun is definitely sort of what happens here. It's sort of like one of those hangover kind of films where, you get the comedy from how the characters interact with each other and sort of how the movie plays things out. I think this definitely is a fun comedy to check out, because like these three are can be pretty funny, especially when they work off of each other in this film. And it's always fun to kind of just see what kind of stuff they go through, sort of what they have to say, and when you're expecting something crazy to happen. Yeah, if you work in a big business, you probably will admire this movie a lot. I don't work at a big business, or at least not yet. I don't know how that feels, but I definitely probably will enjoy this movie more when I do. Good. No, I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, everyone knows about that line. Good Morning Vietnam, the one of Robin Williams' earliest attempts at giving us some good laughs on the big screen. It's definitely a fun film for its time. The film focuses on Robin Williams as a veteran who gets to host the radio, but he's just too comedic and silly for people to take him seriously, and the commanders, the leaders of it, do not like it. Essentially, this is kind of like most of Robin Williams' roles. Robin Williams has appeared in many films where he's a goofy dude who likes to make people laugh and act crazy, and everyone's like, oh, this guy's just too much. We can't have him. Like, that's literally what he is, between this, Dead Poet Society, Patch Adams, etc. One of Robin Williams' most well-known kind of characters in movies are the ones that everyone who interacts with him like, but the people who are running the place he's at do not like. So, yeah, that's what this film is. But with Robin Williams' great comedic talent, I think that's what makes the movie work nicely. If Robin Williams didn't have as much good talent for this kind of film, it probably would have fell under the category of being a lot more forgettable. But with the power of Williams, he makes this movie more remembering of what it had. So yeah, I enjoy the kind of stuff he has to say, and I enjoy how this movie also does reflect on him and the serious side. I think that's what Robin Williams is great at, adding a lot of serious stuff to himself, even in the most silliest of things. Like, even when he's acting as silly as ever, he still can portray very seriously at times. And Good Morning Vietnam is definitely one of the best examples of that. Having him go be all silly and whatnot, but then when it's time to get serious, he actually does get serious. He does get a little rough at times. I mean, I will admit the movie does portray him a lot more in ways as someone that probably shouldn't achieve, but he's funny. I guess that's what you can get out of it. Even if he's not the best advice, he's funny. So this is interesting. This is, of course, a more recent film. The Instigators. It came out on Apple TV Plus recently, and I saw it with a family. And, I just wanted to see sort of how Matt Damon works off with not Ben Affleck, but instead Ben Affleck's brother, Casey Affleck, who I probably have not seen much of in starring roles. The Instigators, I'll admit, it's fun. The action's fun. The chemistry these two have works pretty well. But it's about all I really remember from this movie. Like, really, the only two things that I remember from this movie were the action and some of the lines that these two share. Now, granted, those two aspects are pretty great for what they are. And they do make this movie lots of fun. It's just, if you're looking for something that has a good story to follow or whatever, you're probably not going to find it here. I mean, I honestly wasn't really planning on seeing this movie at first, but, had a big seduction with my parents, and usually when they want to see a movie so bad, they ask me to see it, and I said, screw it, sure. What's this got? It's got some fun, it's fun work, you get some fun action, and, because the movie has great action, I think I can give it a big pass for that, so even if the story isn't top tier to follow, the action and some of the chemistry is what makes it a good movie to me. I haven't made it obvious enough. I am a big fan of baseball. Yes, I've said that a million times, but yeah. I just like to watch as many baseball movies as I can. So here's For Love of the Game, another baseball film starring Kevin Costner. And well, it's definitely, I was thinking at first that this would probably just be like a Field of Dreams type movie, but no, there's actually is something else to it. It's about him as a pitcher who has to deal with family matters as well. It's like if Rocky was not Rocky, instead he was played by Kevin Costner, and instead of boxing it was baseball. That's kind of what the movie is. It just shows kind of the daily personal matters of a pitcher. Only in this case it's a fictional pitcher, I think. I gotta look back. Is this based on... I'm sure that this is a fictional tale about pitcher, but I could be wrong. This probably is based on a true story, and I'm just being douchey. But he's fun in this. And I love how most of the movie actually shows off the game. I mean, I'm always loving watching baseball games, so seeing most of the movie just be him at a game does make a lot of it watchable. I can watch it all knowing that I just watch this like every other baseball game. The sad thing is this game shows off Kevin Costner playing a pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, and the team they're against is the New York Yankees. Although I love the Yankees more than the Tigers, so when I see them lose at the end of this movie, I'm like, no, even though I'm not supposed to be like that. Still, I like baseball, so baseball movies like this are a lot of fun to watch. If you like baseball, you should probably enjoy this movie too. If you don't like baseball, maybe you don't really want to watch this. It's more so, other than just the baseball fun, it's more so a bunch of drama or whatever, but still a good movie for what it is. Okay, so Reality Bites. I was expecting something sort of along the lines of films like Dazed and Confused or Fast Times at Richmond High. And for the most part, that is sort of what the movie is. But there's honestly not enough to it to make it better, per se. But, I guess I can still call it good. Reality Bites features Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke, and a young Ben Stiller, who, like Ryan Reynolds, kind of just looks about the same as he did around the 2000s. Maybe, I haven't seen him in too many things now, but I think Ben Stiller might still look the same now, at least if he shaves. Anyway, Reality Bites is focused on these three and having to go from being kids to growing up and having to get real careers or whatever. Yeah, that's kind of what the movie is. It's basically showing sort of the big thing that sucks when it comes to having to focus more on actually becoming successful in business. So you may think it's like Fast Times at Richmond High, since that movie kind of followed that idea as well. But actually, this movie does take some new turns. We do get an actual new idea with these three. Winona Ryder's most of the focus. But for the most part, when watching this, I mostly just saw it as this Fast Times at Richmond High type film that is unique enough to not be called too much of a ripoff, but I just don't think that it was enough to it for me to love it as much as I was hoping to. So even if I was not able to adore this movie as much as my initial thoughts would be, looking back, I definitely am glad I didn't dislike it. So I'm glad I still enjoyed it. I'm glad that they still have some good stuff to it. So I can admire Reality Bites for trying to go for a serious topic, and it does succeed much. Just, I guess, not enough for me to give this movie a lot of love, but I'll give it as much enjoyment as I could. So yeah, that's what I think of this. Okay, now we have Al Pacino in Serpico, one of Pacino's more interesting roles. This film, he plays a guy who is essentially supposed to be the most polite and professional cop out there. That's what this film follows. It follows this guy as someone who's supposed to be incredibly professional and give all the other cops a bad name. Instead of being someone who always goes after the wrong people, always taking on bad things like being racist or whatever, or all those bad stereotypes cops had in the time. This guy, he likes to get things done. He likes to actually care. That's kind of what he falls in this movie. Him kind of caring more, kind of being more of a sincere and well put together cop. So yeah, that's what you get from this movie. Is it enough to make it amazing? I don't know. The movie does kind of fall flat when they focus more on him, along with other side characters. A lot of the side characters just don't amuse me at all. So I feel like if Pacino was in this movie a lot more, probably would have gotten to me a lot better. But because his screen time was a tad shorter than what I was hoping for, that's kind of what made the movie not as amazing as I thought. So it's still a really good film. I still think this is probably one of Al Pacino's most fun performances. It's just probably not one of the greatest films that he's starred in, or at least had some role in. I mean, probably to my taste, it's one of his nicest performances, but not really one of the best kind of crime stories compared to every other crime film I've seen. So, when you think of an actor who likes to talk like this a lot, who usually likes to spare conversations and say words in a way like this, if you think, who comes to mind that talks like that? Do you know? Well, probably not because I'm terrible at doing that impression. I'm talking about Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn talks like that. But do you know any other actors who talk like that? Like when you hear Vince Vaughn's voice, do you think of anybody else who's talks like that as well? Well, if you do, then hopefully you're thinking about Jon Favreau, because that's what I think. That's what this movie is. Swingers is stars a young Vince Vaughn and a young Jon Favreau, who are portrayed as two guys who decide to try to get as much fun done at a casino, whether it's get super drunk, get super laid, or just kind of be, like swingers. I think most of the fun in this movie is just seeing these two as the main leads because, yeah, these two share that kind of voice. I love having to hear these two talk back and forth with this kind of voice. I don't know if it was intended or not. Like, I don't know if they knew that was a fun coincidence, but I think it's fun seeing them share the screen because, like, I don't think of many other movies where Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau talk to each other a lot because when they share a conversation, you're just hearing this back and forth. Again, I'm probably doing terrible with the voice, but I can't talk like that. I know that's probably not something to really get out of this movie. It is just supposed to be a rom-com that follows Casino and sort of all the things these two go through from it. But most of the time, I'm just focusing on hearing these two talk to each other, and they do have some fun chemistry, so I can enjoy that. I like seeing them kind of work off as good friends who want to get things done best in their own way and just be more active than one another. But yeah, Swingers has a good amount of things to like, but I don't know. I probably find the biggest thing I can remember from this movie is just the fact that it has two guys with a similar voice. That's probably the best thing I can get out of this movie. I know it's probably not the best thing to get out of it, but that's kind of just probably what I'll remember from this the most. So yeah, that's what it is. Okay, this movie. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's an actor that I actually have not seen before in any bad film. All the Leonardo DiCaprio movies I've seen, I've found to all be, good, Like, I don't think I've ever seen a Leonardo DiCaprio movie that I didn't like. Well, that all changed when I saw this film, The Beach. Yeah, well, what's wrong with this movie? Well, let me just talk about it. The plot revolves about him, along with some other friends, going to a lost island that no one else knows of. It's never been discovered by much and is run by these people who, I guess, don't want their island to become public or whatever. It's kind of just like that, It's narration towards an island, what they do in the island or whatnot. So on paper, it sounds like it could be fun. So why did this movie not work for me? It was just way too inconsistent. And then, yes, I have praised movies that I've also said were inconsistent, but this movie doesn't even take good advantage with how inconsistent it is. Like, there are times where I'm just like, why did they do that? Why is this happening? Where is this going? Like, I did not know when I was supposed to actually look at this and be like, oh, am I supposed to find that funny? Am I supposed to find that serious? Like, what is it that this movie's trying to accomplish? Because I really don't know, okay? I really don't know if what I'm watching is supposed to have real good drama to it. Because for the most part, I'm just looking at these scenes like, well, okay, what's happening? Why is this happening? And when movie has a majority of that, I just don't get invested as much. Now, again, you probably have heard me talk about movies that can be confusing that I praise, but in those cases, they did have a purpose. Like, there was something good to work off of. In this movie, I just don't see much to it. Even his performance isn't the best in this, so yeah, I gotta say, the Beach is not a very well rendered film for me, so if you have anything to say about it that you like towards it, then be my guest. But me, no, this movie just did not have anything to go for it that made it really anything that fun for me. Okay, now this movie is a disaster. It's also a pretty bad film. Knowing I watched because I have a thing for disaster movies. I've started to enjoy those movies that revolve around real life disasters. I just like seeing some of the realistic reactions to a realistic apocalypse situation. Unfortunately, Knowing is not that. This film focuses on a little kid who apparently could predict every future natural disaster or tragic event that occurs. And Nicolas Cage plays the man who sees this paper and actually starts to get the connection. Like, she predicts all the future tragedies. She predicts stuff like 9/11 or every other trial. Like, 9/11 is the only one of the tragedies she predicts I'm fully aware of, but still. Yeah, so this means that Cage wants to try and prevent other disasters from happening. Is that what it is? Is he gonna try and look at this and prevent other disasters? Well, that's what he says. Does that happen? Absolutely not. What happens instead is the rest of the movie is just him still acknowledging these events, being like, whoa, that's so cool. And that's it. There's no him trying to actually stop these disasters. Like, another one occurs and he's just like, whoa, that happened? Oh my god, she predicted it. Like, he doesn't do anything to stop it. So it just doesn't work. But I think what really destroys this movie for me, and I think a lot of people who've seen it can agree, is the ending. The ending to this movie is, without a doubt, probably one of the dumbest endings I've ever seen to any movie ever. It's just not smart at all, okay? If you really want to see this movie, then I will spoil it, so probably just have to skip over to the next one I talk about. But yeah, this ends with these Nicolas Cage's kids discovering these weird strangers who take them to what's supposedly, I guess, I don't know, a UFO or whatever, and tell them that they are willing to restart the entire world over. So they tell them that they should come with them to help them watch over the world restart or whatever, and they have to leave Cage behind or whatever. So when they get onto the UFO, they leave, the whole entire world explodes, because I guess it got too close to the sun. So the entire Earth just completely explodes, completely gets overheated and just burns out. And the kids look at it from the ship and watch over it. There is literally no connection to that, no reason for it. It is terrible. And that's what makes this movie so awful. I give it a pass for how creative it seemed at first, because like the first half of the movie did have a good creativity to it. It's the second half that not only ruined this movie, but totally shattered any good thing towards it. So, because of the second half, I just hated what this movie did. I was really hoping for a disaster film that I could actually follow and be like, oh, that's crazy. But instead, I'm like, what the hell did I just watch? And when I say that, most of the time, it's just, that means the movie just did not accomplish what it wanted. So now we have Ron Howard. He's a good director. I've praised him a lot before. The paper is decent enough. It follows these guys who work at a newspaper company, and I guess are essentially involved with designing news stories. Now, where's the focus for it going for? Well, there's a couple focuses. One focus involves two black guys getting accused of a murder just because they witnessed it. So yeah, you can say that's an incredibly racist thing to talk about. Or then there's moments where Michael Keaton has to deal with his wife's issues. And then there's moments where the manager of the establishment, Glenn Close, has to pretty much deal with all the bad situations that the company seems to be going for. This is one of those movies that I think works best when it comes to when the characters actually do interact more. When they interact, it's worthwhile. But when the story's kind of trying to progress, I think that's kind of just where I'm like, I don't know. For the most part, I guess I'll give the paper a pass, because I mean it does work off well. I mean, the interactions these guys share with each other at times are fun. You know, it's fun seeing all these actors kind of work with each other, and I guess the ending is somewhat nice. But for the most part, it just isn't the best kind of followed film. So for that reason, I wouldn't say it's anything amazing or even great. It's just decent. I mean, if you can follow these kind of films better than I can, you probably will like it more. But me, I was mostly just into when these characters talk to each other. That's really it. Other than that, it's just a decent, fine film.